Welcome to a Pugwatch short. Now the idea of these shorts is that sometimes I capture footage from like half instance runs, things like that. Because I record in 720p I do have to set the machine up to recording that, then log into Warcraft and then record them. So rather than let this footage go to waste, I've turned it into a couple of Pugwatch shorts. Every time I get one of these I'll upload it. Although it's not a full run, it's normally enough just to see a couple of the bosses and maybe the way around the instance. Now this is the lost city of the Tol'vir, and the way the instance is laid out is you go inside the city, work your way around, kill off a couple of people, then work your way into this second area where we are now, the upper area. Now this group had a tank that they complained quite a bit about when I first joined, who apparently thought it was still Wrath of the Lich King, and was pretty much chain pulling, pulling groups without any crowd control, anything like that. And as you'll see, the priest has run out of mana now, almost. About a quarter of the mana bar left. She was a pretty good priest. She was balancing it out. She had a couple of cooldowns available that would let her refill her mana bar, but having to use them every pool is a sign of a bad tank. So what I'll do is I'll let them all drink up here and then proceed on down. Now there are two ways of getting to this boss. You can either go down this route here, or you can go to the left and round the front. There's not much difference, and also the little guys that you see over the side, the vendors and the merchants and that, they're non-elites, so you can, if they accidentally pull, it's not going to cause the end of the world. These guys do hit quite hard though, and if you're pulling more than 2 or 3, I would really recommend you get some crowd control in there, whether it's a rogue, sapping, warlock, fearing. If you're having a warlock do a fear crowd control, something I've learned is make sure they have the glyph. I've caught myself a couple of times asking warlocks to do certain things and having problems. Usually because without the glyph they end up fearing the mob into another mob and pulling a whole load, which just isn't viable here. Anyway, this boss is an interesting one. His first phase is primarily a tank and spank. Just deal enough damage to get him down to about 50%, I think it was, and that triggers his phase 2. Now I was just double checking tactics. No one knew what the tactics were or are or should be, so we pretty much just figure out as we go along. One of the guys yelled as we went in that we need to kill a phoenix, which doesn't appear to start with, but you'll see why in a minute. So anyway, first phase, tank and spank, just cycle in a couple of rotations, make sure you've got enough threat if you're tanking. One thing I find as a paladin tank, a brilliant way to build threat is to get 3 holy power, then use Inquisition, then use Divine Plea, which if you've got talents in it will instantly give you full holy power. Slap them in with a Shield of the Righteous and you smack for 23-25k. That's a massive front load of threat, and it's more than enough to hold off the DPS at the moment. I'd imagine with better gear I'm going to be relying on Vengeance a bit as well then, but it's still quite impressive. Now this is his phase 2. He hits you all with Repentance and stuns you all, and then pulls your soul from your body, like so. Now what you need to do is take care of the Harbinger of Darkness. It will reset its aggro, it will go for whoever's nearest, so it's always best to taunt it and pick it up if you're the tank. Cycling a couple of rotations. Now, I don't know whether this was just me being overly cautious, but I thought this did seem to hit a bit harder than I was expecting, so I was using my spare holy power to heal myself. Word of Glory, sorry. It also gives an over heal, which then provides a shield, which is pretty damn good. Once you've killed this guy down, you'll get pulled back into your bodies, and you can then continue wailing on the boss again. He does reset, his aggro table does reset again, so just be sure to pick it up if you're tanking. If you're a DPS, you might want to wait a couple of seconds just before you go for him. As you can see, we didn't have any problems there, but I'd had someone mention it before. Make sure you drag him out of that column of sun, and make sure you don't get any DPS caught in it or anything. I only rotated him slightly rather than move him all the way around, but the DPS were pretty good, they ran around him. As a paladin, one thing that I probably should mention to other paladins is make sure every time you've got holy power you spend it, whether it's on healing yourself for the shield, or whether it's on Shield of the Righteous, or whether it's on Inquisition. Make sure you're using it. You can't maximise threat generation if you're not using that holy power all the time. Once he's down, he dropped a nice one-handed DPS sword, which I believe our Death Knight won. I had no arguments with that. I mean, if she wants to dual wield, she can dual wield. To be fair, she's a pretty good Death Knight as well. Now from here, we both ate up. I've got stamina food. That's another thing. Make sure you've got food in that. Even if it's just the plain food. I mean, the bonus food is always better, but any kind of food is good. Now this is Siam, the final boss of this location, and he's a little bit of a pain. I'll run through some tactics, and always make sure when fighting this guy you don't stand too close to the edge. He does knock you about, and if he knocks you over the edge you've got to run all the way around to get back up again. Now I just did a brief ready check here, and Once everyone confirmed they were good to go, in we go. Holy Shield to front load my threat. Again, it procs off, so not Holy Shield, sorry, Avenger's Shield. Keep slamming that in there. I keep calling it Holy Shield as well, which drive people insane. Now this is mainly an ad phase, this first phase, is you've got to pick these guys up. I didn't know this when I first fought him. No, we weren't too sure what was going on. Someone said it was an ad fight, and it was like, okay, do I need to tank or what? But yeah, pick the ads up, have the DPS burn them down. You can't really do much damage to him while he's got that shield up, so just keep picking them up, burning them down. They spawn all over the place, but try and drag them back to the centre. He doesn't do the knockback yet, it appears later, but you really don't want to have anyone caught by the edge or falling off, because it's just a silly mistake. Once you've got them all picked up, just keep an eye out for any more. I think I'll zoom the camera out in a minute, but it's just pretty much panning around, make sure you catch them all. They appear right at the edge sometimes as well, so make sure you see them, it is always good. Watch for the lightning. If you see lightning coming in from a direction that you're not tanking in, it's probably one of these guys, they've pulled up behind you. Now once you've taken down a lot of these guys, it'll break his shield, CMET will become available again. I'm not sure if there's a way of tracking it, I didn't see any. But as you fight these guys, you get a little, well, as you fight these guys, they're considered part of the boss. If you look just under my map, I've got a focus icon for telling me what the health is of the boss. That's showing these guys at the moment, so you pretty much pick them up, knock them down. There you go, once you've done enough damage anyway, he breaks his shield, that's his knockback. That's why I said you don't want to be too close to the edge. And you also get catapulted about by the wind as well. There doesn't seem to be any direction for this, he just seems to knock you around, but just make sure you're not near the edge and you should be fine. While you're fighting CMET, additional ads will spawn around him, so just make sure you pick those up as well. I couldn't see them at first because of his body, so there's one literally on the edge of his body that I couldn't spot while I was there. I also find dropping the camera out a bit helped me see these ones as well. That big golden guy who's just appeared is the Guardian of Ancient Kings as well. That's a really nifty trick for dealing with a lot of the incoming damage in this fight. Pretty much reduces all damage I take by 50%, and it doesn't seem to trigger repentance either, so I can keep it up and just work on it from there. Now I just spotted there's one in the background that I hadn't spotted while I was fighting him, and the lightning was a key giveaway because all of a sudden the lightning's just bouncing across 3 or 4 targets, so I went to grab that, ended up dragging CMET over there to deal with it. And here the Death Knight pops Army of the Dead. That's absolutely fine by me because it doesn't matter whether he starts spamming Taunt or whatever, because it's just going to take him out. It's the last couple of percentage. I can just spam Hammer of Wrath like some kind of possessed individual. As you can see, he summoned another ad over there in the corner, which I saw immediately, picked it up. A little bit too far away, and I had Holy Shield on cooldown, which it took me about 3 seconds of spamming it before I realised that. But that was it. Once that was done, he was dead. Picked some loot. There was a nice bit of tanking gear here. I believe it was the neck piece. No, it's a ring even. I took that. Simple. But yeah, these are fantastic boss fights. The fact that you can always go and not know the tactics and pick them up as you go along is definitely a plus. I wouldn't worry too much about memorising all the tactics, as you'll see in my later video where we do a run through the halls of origination. It's a bit manic. There are, I think I counted 9 bosses. I could be wrong on that. There are a lot of bosses there, and trying to remember the tactic for every one of them is a bit of a pain. So don't try and remember everyone. Just remember the key bits, like this boss does a knockback. Don't stand near the edge. The other guy with the Dark Phoenix, kill the Dark Phoenix when it appears. Don't bother trying to attack him. He's immune, kind of thing. Stuff like that. But yeah, so that's a heads up for the velocity of the Tol'vir, and fingers crossed I'll get a proper run through that at some point, and I'll do another video for that. But all in all, good boss fights, and CMET probably being the hardest one. It's just keeping an eye out for the ads, pick them up, keep them off the DPS if you're tanking. If you're DPS, you can help your tank by dragging them towards him. If you're a Death Knight, Death Grip it. If you're a mage, lock it down and pull it towards the tank, something like that. Just simple things. If you're a Shaman, Elemental Binding, lock the thing down. And if you're a Warlock, I think you can banish them as well. So little bits like that, always helpful. Okay, well this has been a Pugwatch short, and I've been Metroid2K. Have a good day.